checking everything. Anyway, yeah. Here we just gonna chop it up for a bit, talk about things and whatnot. Yeah, just give it a couple seconds, we'll get to it. What is going on? Alright. I don't even know what song is on. You recording on? Oh, it's on. It's the Alright, so I don't know, let me get to the thing. Why is it so like small? Oh my goodness. Also, we've been live for 9 minutes, so what's going on, guys? How y'all doing? It's been a minute. We doing like a weekly thing, maybe, I don't know. But how y'all doing? Anyone's around, you know. lot of, what is that? Oh, okay. Oh, goodness, my leg. Oh, my legs started cramping up. Oh, goodness. I'm fine now. Alright, so, yeah. So, it's been a minute. I have been working. I have at least been working in the background. I'm not even joking. In fact, I'm going to show you kind of details of what's been going on. Just a little background thing of what's been happening since there. So, let me at the very least be clear that I have, at the very least been working on things. But I'm gonna go in. So first off, you know, uh, one thing I have been doing just kind of offline is just I've been pretty much just uh, catching up on stuff I've wanted to. Oh shoot! I pressed the wrong button. But it's fine, son. But pretty much I have been in a common writer. I've been a real, like, not just common writer, but like tokusatsu kick. So yeah, so I've been pretty much just been watching that. I started watching Kamen Rider Decade. I've I'm like seven. I'm gonna say six because I kind of fell asleep on the seventh one, mostly because I was watching it early in the morning, or rather like late at night. And I'm going to bed and just that. So I kind of fell asleep on the seventh one, but I'm gonna like go back and rewatch it. But what it is that pretty much I really like it so far. I'm interested in how my feelings are going to be at the end of it all, but so far I'm really enjoying it. Uh, it is pretty fun to watch. I think the main characters are like are goofy, and I'm cool with that. And it's just really, I really appreciate it. That's. Mm, hmm. Oh my goodness. Okay. So. Yep, and also I am going to pretty much play a lot of like pretty much after this I'm going to be this hard like up. Excuse me. I'm pretty much after this I'm going to be just like after this I just want to kind of give a little update of what's going on, and then after this I'm going straight into editing the video I just recorded. Make sure that's up, and it should be out definitely this weekend. I think I like editing more than just kind of like recording, because at least with editing I'm just like, okay, I can sit down and think of what I want to do, whereas if I'm recording I'm like, I gotta stage fright, oh no, oh no, oh no. But that's the whole point. So let me kind of show the thing here. So right, we've got the channel Haven't released a video in a month. That's not good. That is going to kill my channel. I need to actually like get back on there. But to tell you about it, like right, I pretty much have done the whole will dress thing. There's a little thing. There's stuff I want to add, but here's the thing, though. Right, when I was typing this up and writing it down, I was thinking about it, and after thinking about it, I kind of came to the conclusion. I think I'd rather just wait for the rest of the season to kind of conclude, and then just write a proper review of it. Because I feel like a lot of things I say in this are going to make a lot more sense just kind of in that review itself, as opposed to just kind of sitting there not doing anything. After this, oh no, I'm not gonna edit. I'm sorry, I completely forgot. After this, I'm gonna write up. I'm gonna do 2 other videos, or rather, I'm gonna do another video and then start work on another one that's gonna be out next week, and that is the one that I'm working on is going to be kind of my like thoughts on the whole Yu-Gi-Oh new player thing and everything. I know I'm kind of late to it, but it's still never too old to really get that conversation going and talk about it more. So that's kind of my thing. So I'm gonna talk about more so kind of like, is one of the issues probably just because the anime did so much that it probably, that it's effectively like messed up how getting into the game is harder to do. That's probably the whole thing. But yeah, that's pretty much the main issue. Oh yeah, that's right. Um, so I want to also kind of like talk about this real quick because it's a real thing. So there is this PDF that kind of was like floating around talking about Bushy Road, everything. I wish Chris would put the actual PDF on here. I probably could find it if I just looked real quick. About Bushy Roads. What? Come on, what you want? Oh yeah, honestly, that's another thing. But yeah, it's talking about like Bushy Roads plans going forward, and talking about wanting to add another TCG to the market. And I'm just like, I don't know, but that's it, Chief. Like we're still kind of dealing with issues from the other games, right? Now, obviously, this makes sense why we're probably having issues because they're putting their focus into, setting up this new TCG for success. In that case, it makes a lot more sense what we're doing. But also, why? Like, I haven't watched Chris's video all the way. I was gonna do that, but it just didn't. Just gonna get to it all the time. But he does say like pretty much like. I'll give him like this is a good one. But he does talk about like how. How it's important to not forget about the new customers. Now. Oh, you managed to get a friend of Vanguard. Oh, that's really good. I appreciate you. That's so good. Thank you for showing up too. Vanguard never gets played as a deck. Those are two deck choices. I wonder why. No, I'm just joking. But like, yeah, no, thank you for coming in. We're Tangly just kind of warming up, but everything. So. I feel, ooh shoot, that messed up the sound there. But I feel Chris's sentiment here, and I was in disc, I was like looking at his tweets and in Discord while he was kind of talking about it before he kind of got his whole thoughts in the order for this video, and I agree with him in the feeling of when you come back from Pokemon Worlds, which they went all out this year because it is their first world championship. Excuse me. Oh, goodness. Okay, sorry. Excuse me. In Japan, I think ever, which is crazy considering it's been 25 years of Pokemon, right? It's insane to me just how much effort they put into that, and how much effort they like Pokemon puts into their events. That is kind of like, I can see why he would be upset coming back and then seeing this originally, and I get him. But I'm just pounding on a deck over here. Sorry. Like, having that ability, having all that money is there. And I know people are like, well, Pokemon's the biggest media franchise in the world. It's like, yes, that's true. But there's still effort you could do. Let's, like, and he's talking about Vanguard here primarily, or like Weiss and whatnot. But I want to talk about more so another thing. So, did y'all remember that the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships happened like a couple weeks ago? Because they did. And and as we're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh and how people can't really get into the game, or the new player experience is just awful. Let's not forget the World Champions happened last year. I mean, happened like 2 weeks ago, prior to what they happened right before Pokemon Worlds. Right, Konami is not as big as Game Freak or Nintendo, but Konami has one of the top three. Right, they have one of the biggest trading card games ever. Right, like, let's kind of look at this. You have one of the biggest card games, 25-year history. You have not been able to really like memorialize the passing of the original creator, Kazuki Takahashi, RIP to the GOAT. Right, you have not been able to memorialize that anywhere. This is the 25th anniversary. You've had Master Duel for a year, and yet the one thing we see of you on day one of the tournament is you playing in empty, playing on paper mats in an empty office space. Like, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh also had something lined up to do something amazing too for its worlds. Like, they even invited like content creators out, and they apparently just didn't do anything, because I didn't see anything about from Farfa or DZ or what should we call it, Team APS, or any of the other content creators that weren't competing. Like, everyone just felt like very silent, and it's just so weird to me how Pokemon just pretty much had a whole carnival, a whole festival, a whole everything, and you have everything lined up on your end to also have something like that, but we're seeing you at the most budget place possible. And it's just like, it's not just Bushy Road. I think Konami is also fumbling Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? There was that this topic about the whole the shareholders are starting to be like, hey, I'm hearing things about like streams aren't great, or the ability to do, shoot, I'm blanking here, but the ability for new players to really come in, right? Master hasn't really had that retention and everything, and some certain things are complicated because streams just don't look good because you don't have a surrender option in the actual tournament rules, etc., etc. Like, there's a lot of things that Yu-Gi-Oh also isn't doing that's really helping. And it's like, the videos that MBT has been putting out about this whole thing is right. That Raran person, the Hearthstone player, pretty much going like 10 hours on Yu-Gi-Oh and then just saying, I'm done because this is, I've tried, but like I just can't get it. It's just not feasible. It's crazy. So it's like, yeah, there's a problem there, right? Vanguard's problem is that we literally can't afford our decks. Our problem is that we can't afford our decks, right? But I think if we could, we can get people into the game. We've had multiple times where we've gotten people to the game, so that's not really an issue. Let me find the MBT. MBT. Where's that video? Right, it should be, it's this one, right? this video is really good. I'm just kind of like, putting it there. I'd say, yeah, watch this and watch this video and kind of talk about it because it's very important. I think this is really good. It's going to be part of the connection to that video I'm going to discuss sometime this week. So, I say look it up, watch it, everything. It's on MBT Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Watch it because it's going to be put in that. But right, so it's not just Pokemon, right? It is Yu-Gi-Oh is also having this problem. I have a feeling that eventually Battle Spirits might have this. Battle Spirit Saga, might have this problem because I don't know what's going to happen with that game within the year. I hope things are able to be completely solid. I am not really checked up crazy like that. I said 2 release and I hadn't really got anything. So I think Battle Spirits might be in that similar position, but it's like for Vanguard and Yu-Gi-Oh, 2 of like the 6 longest running card games of all time, like not really being at their best behavior when they easily could be is kind of weird stuff, right? YouTuber went kind of silent despite being a big thing. This more akin to card game business, realizing they are competing other bigger strategies. That's so on that first point, numbers are kind of silent despite being a world being a thing. Yeah, it is. It is silent, but like, why would you not be silent? It's like, why would you bring Farfa and Team APS and DC there, and you don't have them do a single thing, right? Like, MBT was, I think MBT was doing something, but even then they probably won't do anything with him. Like, the fact that you had your biggest YouTubers, I don't know if Samurai was there. Was Samurai there? I don't know. But I think like a lot of card games are having are kind of like little like stagnating problems. I don't know if that's because of like it's obviously because of behind the scenes things. It's not just we're not out of money. It's like, no, you're not out of money. You're some of the biggest companies of the world, right? Bushiroad pretty much is the king of idols, right? You have Bane Dream, and you have Bane Dream in collab with Hololive. Like, you've got the chance to get the bag somewhere, right? I think the fact that they had 4 Hololive members do Weiss things and then just didn't think of giving like content creators or like ambassadors, any of those, to do Vanguard is also kind of a miss in my opinion, right? Like, you got Chris to be for Shadowverse, but like, we don't have an ambassador right now, right? We had Milo Jovovich, but I don't think she even heard back from Bushiroad since that original commercial, right? Daigo is pretty much Japan only. We're having that weird stuff with Amanesu, which is very, very like messed up, and that's one of the reasons I kind of like really do not like the idol culture, right, at all. That stuff is insane to me. What that after that 3 years after she really had 3 years after she had she pretty much like premiered, debuted, the fact that there's people still harassing her is just like just bleh. I hate it. But that's a whole topic for a whole different discussion. Let's see. Digimon TCG's only problem so far currently is more on the side of not having enough in-person events, keeping up with online events. I I don't know if that I'd argue that's a good or a bad thing to have because as long as you got events. Now I don't know how many events they're firing, but they're just firing online events left and right, and like, but you don't have any in person. Like that might be a lot in person, and that might be a problem. I don't know. I don't know if it's gone up or down since then, but I feel like that is just something you can easily fix. I think that's also just because One Piece and right they're splitting themselves between Battle Spirits, One Piece, Dragon Ball Super, which that's what I'm gonna get into like after I get done with this streams, like kind of write up something for Dragon Ball Super. I promised I was gonna do it. I haven't done it. I apologize, but that's gonna be you know talking about Dragon Ball Super's state of things and whatnot, and then at that just 4 games they're doing. They're effectively going to. They just really launched One Piece recently. They're about to quote unquote reboot Dragon Ball. So there is a lot they have to kind of go into. So that is something to really kind of talk about there. As for so they've got they're stretched out too, just the way Bushiroad stretched out. Konami really doesn't have the ability to say, oh, well, we're stretched out too. It's like you don't do anything. You pretty much made pachinko, and that's pretty much all you've done. You haven't really done anything. So the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh's Worlds was so low key and not as interesting is that's on you. There's no that's on you, and that's on you fully. There's nothing to say. Oh, there's nothing to say oh, well, we had like so many projects in the backgrounds. Like, maybe you did, but none of them in a way that gives you money. Hey, Everett, how you doing? I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. Uh, I don't know where this kind of pops of everything. But yeah, it's like it's hard to really be like, yeah, we got yeah, you don't have enough money for your game. When it's like it's the only game you have. So you not being supportive on that end is very much an issue, and I think that's one of the reasons. That's the reason why Pokemon just really took over. Besides just being Pokemon, but it's like Yu-Gi-Oh! Worlds is just so mediocre. I feel like Vanguard's Worlds is going to be better. I mean, just the Bushiroad Worlds is going to be better. I'd argue that because they were in the U.S., they did a lot more special things, right, and everything. I think the problem is also like the content. I think the difference is like Bushiroad can't really fly out content creators like that. I mean, if we could barely fly in the top one, I think it's very hard to be like, hey, if you're a content creator but you're not casting or competing, to be like, hey, come in and hey, we can fly you out or at least get you a hotel. Come in, do some content over here at the championship series or whatnot, right? Because every content creator is ironically also a competitor too. So it's like it's hard to really just be. It's really hard to just kind of like put them in here, right? But it's kind of like it's ironic that it's like the content creators at the event can't do anything because they're also participating in the event, which is funny. So that's kind of like just the thing, right? I wish I could have gone both in the West and South America as a ghost. Um, yeah, I think that's just because a lot of I think that's just the issue with Vanguard in the West is primarily because I just don't think Bushiroad understands the whole. Bushiroad talks a big game about they want to have this global market. They want to have, you know, they want to be the number one TCG company in the world. But you have to be able to, when you say that, you have to make sure you can back it up. Because you're back it up, because I don't know what they're. I think the idea is that they're saying, "Oh, well, we're gonna be the number one TCG company. We're gonna have all these great games. We're gonna be, we're gonna be the people, the thing people think about when they talk about TCGs." And to me, that's cool. But the problem is, you also have to make sure all your games are in a good spot, a great spot. All your games have to be good, and all your games have to be accessible, and all your games have to be playable. Right now, Vanguard is not accessible. Right now, Weiss is in a weird meta, at least in the West. Right now, you want to launch. Showers Ball just got through here. And something that's going to be a side game, something that's going to be with you, that's fine. And then you want to launch another game, not including debating on whether or not that's going to be them actually doing the full Buddy Fight reboot, or it's going to be its own separate thing. But the whole point is, you have to be saying, yeah, we're going to be number one TCG company because people want to play our games. People can play our games. And right now, none of that is true. So I'm saying, if you want that to be the case by 2027, you have to be very aggressive with what you want to do. That means trying to restore some of this Western the issues the West has. That means trying to bring back some of the the stores that were missing, give people a chance, right? Make sure that the West can do there. That means resetting up offices. That means giving the Western branch more leeway, because it's obvious they don't have leeway. There's I've seen some things that made me say, yeah, no, they feel still powerless to this day, even though we've separated into two, producers for Vanguard here. It's so weird how how just none of this is true. And it's very important and it's very necessary for that to be the case. Because otherwise, you're gonna look stupid. Right? People, you're gonna look almost exactly like how the Buddyfy creator, the Gateway creator, how people kind of just laughed him out of all, kind of just laughed him crazily, right? So you just say we're gonna do the TCG market, and then if Vanguard is not in a space in the West to still be available, that's gonna be a problem. Which is why I say you have to be you have to be able to say, yeah, we're going to 100% put our efforts into getting these games back on track. That's the point that I think is very important to me in everything. That's why I kind of fear, because we did this to Vanguard. I don't know what's gonna happen to Buddy Fight when it's right from the ashes. I mean, they already did this to Buddy Fight. Buddy Fight was the moment, just but Buddy Fight was the canary in the coal mine. In my opinion, we just didn't expect it because we weren't like, oh, Vanguard's doing good, Weiss doing good, everything, right? It's that statement that a lot of people say. It's like, when you're winning, you don't really have to care about a lot of your problems can be ignored when you're winning. And that's what Vanguard and Buddy Fight were, kind of. Most of your problems, excuse me, not all of your problems, most of your problems. Right, you can ignore those because Weiss is quite literally jumping up the roof to be a top collector TCG, right? Especially during the pandemic surge, right? Buddy Fight died for a very variety of reasons, but the signs were there. We should have seen it, right? It had the promo problem too. It had the power creep problem. Oh Lord, it had the power creep problem, right? Pretty much when the anime went off, that was the moment they were like, we're going to start winding down. And I think winding down because, like, manga's not as hard to do as anime. You can cheapen it out. But it's another thing I have kind of like a little topic the Yu-Gi-Oh situation and like how not having anime kind of hurts is that how much I say this is that without an anime, it's very hard to do to do. I'm trying to think. Without your anime, it's very hard to do. Uh, I am blanking on the words. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. I am so sorry. uh, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. Oh my goodness, this is so hard because I'm like, this is easy to do. This is so easy. It's hard to do promotion. It's hard to do. It's hard to actually promote your game because if you're a long running series and then all of a sudden you go off the air, you're off the air for a couple years, people are just gonna forget about you. And I think that's really what happened. I think when Buddy Fight went off the air, the casuals who really weren't like that deep into Buddy Fight in terms of like getting the cards and whatever, they saw it, they went off the air, didn't see it the next week, they didn't see it the next 2 weeks, they see it the next 2 weeks, they see it the next month. They were kind of like thinking of like, well, where's Buddy Fight? And so you're seeing all the stuff, right? If you don't go to card shops, that's how it is. This is why I'm like, I think a problem with Yu-Gi-Oh right now is because of not having an anime focused on the the master rule instead of being on rush duel. Not a lot of people are going to be entering in. I think also because of that, and just how you get to see a lot of because you have to write duels. You also get to see like, okay, well, this is gonna happen. You get to see ahead of time what's happening, and you're like, okay, how do we make this flow in the structure of the show while also having the fights be interesting and enjoyable? And that is, I think, the biggest thing is like because then you also have just straight up have a path to getting into the game, and you don't have that anymore, and you haven't had it for like 4 years. Right, like once Yusaku stayed in Linked Reigns, ever since then, I don't think they've really gotten a lot of players into Yu-Gi-Oh. Let me catch up. Senzi is totally respect. So that's another thing, right? It's obviously like it. That's kind of both a blessing and a curse of the whole. We know how much anime we've got because it's like it's a blessing and a curse because it's like, oh, we know that we've got some time, right? But also, it's also a negative because it's like, well, if we know when it's like, okay, at this point our future is winding down, right? That's one of the positive negatives, right? It's like positive, you know how much time you've got. You know if you've got some good time, but the negatives also like that as the time catches up, it's very hard to be like, oh good. When it comes down to it, it's like we don't have much info, we don't have it there. Eventually we're gonna have to have a big explanation. Is the game really gonna die? Is it not? It's a lot, and I understand. Like, I understand completely. That's why it's kind of like a 50-50. I don't know if they should have announced how much anime they got because I think another problem is that I'll say again, right? I'm waiting until we're just over to really talk about it, but I'm saying this right now. Like, if the next season is not a new story arc, and we're still stuck on this whole, uh, you know, AI trying to take over the world thing, if we're not be able to fresh everything, it's going to be bad because at a certain point it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, can we please move on from this story? Like we're not vibing with it. We're not vibing with it, and you haven't done anything to really fix it. That's why I'm like, please just let these next 6 episodes complete the story, wrap it up. I don't care how fast it is. I don't care how slow it is. I just want it done because we need to move on because I think we have stagnated. Mostly because one, we have that long this break in between seasons that like doesn't, it's supposed to generate hype and also give characters, the animators time to animate, but at the same time it's like you have to also now write in blocks in a way that probably is not working, in my opinion. Let's see. Agreed. Since Reigns ended, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did start losing players. They're kind of trying to bring Yu-Bell and mechanics, but still, it's broken at this point. I don't see it as a point to Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore. I disagree. I think I'll kind of put it like this. I think this is kind of going to be another key point. Is I'm trying not to spoil the point of the video, but it's pretty much like this. Because there's not an anime, that means there's not really a new summoning mechanic. I think what's ironic is because each new era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a new summoning mechanic and focused on that summoning mechanic, it allowed people who watched the anime to understand the summoning mechanic so long as they kept watching. Because eventually, as you get in, unless you know the rules, eventually you'll get into, oh, this makes sense, or this rule makes sense, right? Like, synchros and Xyz are very easy. Links are very easy. Pendulum's hard, but like once you kind of get a little bit of details, like okay, what happens? It's mostly like the destruction stuff about Pendulum that's really the biggest issue. Like outside of that, like Pendulums are kind of also easy too. Like right, I think that's also a positive thing there. So with that, my thing is, plus they've nerfed Pendulum so hard to the ground, like, yeah, it's not as crazy as it used to be. But to me, it is because there's no anime, the new plan had to be, well, we don't have a new summon mechanic. I think it's too early for one, and we're doing rush duels. I think we're just too crazy to do it. So what they've done instead is do a lot of going back to older mechanics, going back to older decks, older play styles, and trying to update them, right? I guarantee you, we would not have seen Volcanics released in a year or two, at most, if we had a new summer mechanic. Excuse me. But because of that, now you have to enhance the playstyle of these old decks, enhance the plan style of these old mechanics. You gotta give them support, which is good, but then sometimes you also have the issue with Yu-Bell. Yu-Bell is pretty dope. I think Yu-Bell and mechanics are very dope in terms of just how they're good in terms of legacy support. I think Salmon Greats actually are kind of like understated because they also are like pretty dope. I think there's some pretty like cool like legacy support that does help these decks that aren't just, oh my god, gain 3 negates, set 2 floodgates, and make your opponent cry. Right? It's like you enhanced the style up to a more modern terms, and it's fine. I think the problem is because that is all you have to do. Eventually, we've now had the point of, okay, well now we need to create both new archetypes that are also crazy, but we also just don't have a rein in. I think, in my opinion, the anime also was able to rein in some of these archetypes so that they're not just crazy. Right? I imagine if like Trick Stars were made in like imagine like they redesigned Trick Stars in 2023 Yu-Gi-Oh, or like 2022 Yu-Gi-Oh. They were in Power of the Elements per se. Like imagine what they would have done to Trick Stars if they were in a point of that, right? If to me it's like you have to wind these down because you have to make them understandable for the people watching. You can't just be like, okay, I do this and do this and do this and this and this, right? When you have more complicated stuff, that's usually more like when the antagonists or the rivals start popping in, where they go crazy, right? Revolver, Rockets, right? Rockets come in and they just do a lot of crazy stuff, and now they're, world champion tier deck, technically. I know it's technically Dragon Link, but let's be honest, it's pretty much like Rocket's like main core, and then like some other like dragon cards that are fire. So there's that, right? So it's like um, but that's the problem. Yu-Gi-Oh! It updates the game plan of older decks, which is great. Your whole competitive life is based. Just look at the why should people play them? Okay, that's what you mean. That is also another thing. That is more so the sins of a power creep. That is just the unfortunate sins of power creep. Not like sometimes it's just like I'm trying to say this. Um, I get you. That's I think. First off, I get you. I understand what you're trying to say. It's like yes, the problem is like if you do update the older decks, but they're still not competitively viable because the competitive stuff right now is all this crazy junk, right? Like Kashtira, which like locks your board. It just does everything. Tier elements were just like you're playing back and forth on your board and everything, and you're not able to really update that to a way that's more competitive. It does feel like what was the point? And I understand that that is a valid criticism of the game to have. Um, in that regard, that is really more so just some more ban lists, some ban lists. Seriously, at that point, it's really just the mechanics of either a power creep or a ban list, right? And at that point, that's also another like question to ask, right? It's like, how much can a ban list really fix? Because at a point, it's like at a certain point, just some things are just unkillable, right? Like freaking, like can I go the road to the king? Let's go to road to the king. Road to the king. Is it Road to the King? Metagame report. This week, right? Tier elements still on the list, right? But they said 39 rescue ace, sinful spoils. What the hell is sinful spoils? Tier elements, siege tier, horses, siege tier, punk tier, right? Like tier elements have pretty much become speed of the night, right? Tier elements have pretty much become like not really tier elements, but more so just kind of like, yeah, we're tier elements, quote unquote, but we just become like super good stuff to deck, right? If we can mill cards that, if we have deck cards that can interact with it, such as, we have our tiers, we have our Shizus, but we also have the, which we call it, the Horse cards also dropped. You also have the, Fairy Tale Snow, everything. You have all these cards that just sort of do stuff and everything. Our tier is just so powerful that even when pretty much the entire engine is at quite literally 8, 9, 10, 11 cards, 12 cards, they're still like a big thing. tell most nostalgia fan base, would you make a new meta strong archetype when you can make the old one better, like or archers? I mean, in a way, they kind of did, right? They make a new archetype that's really strong, but why would you not go back to the old ones? Hold on, I'm trying to get it. You know this archetype sells because nostalgia fan base. Because sometimes you can also. It really is like depending on like what the designers of the game want to do, right? It's like, do you want to make tier elements is here because it's part of a storyline, right? Storyline in the card lore, right? We don't know what that lore is, but it's there. But it's part of a storyline with card lore, so you can break a new world while you're also saying your own story of the like, as opposed to just going back to the old ones. And sometimes it's easier to make something new rather to continue back with something old. Because sometimes something old just won't sell as much as you think it is. Whereas if you drop something new is going to always sell, especially if it's strong. And people like really say, yeah, this deck is cool, this deck is fun, this deck is way more adapted to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Than anything in the past. I don't know, it's a complex discussion. I think it's a really complex discussion that has a lot more nuance than I can currently eloquently say. But it is very much a good question. I don't know if I've answered it anyway, but it's like, yeah, I get you. It's like, why not go back to these old archetypes and like give them power instead of creating like all these new ones, right? Rescue is tiered labyrinth, right? Instead of like supporting like Solomon Great. Do we have any Solomon Great lists? I want to see a Solomon Great list. Why would you tell me a Solomon Great list, you dummy? Give me a list. Grass Super Heavy Samurai Ishizu Vernisif. What the? Maybe we don't need to go back to old archetypes. Maybe we are just screwed. I don't know. I'm just reading this. I'm like, what? What did you say to me? It's like, there's branded Mathmech Agnister. And there's a runic. Yeah, what is Sinful Spoils? Oh, is that the new like magician chick? Or like new like grades? That's what they call it, Sinful Spoils? That's why they call it that? Oh, okay. Oh, Sound Great. Yeah. Sound Great Fire is like immediately pumping. I wonder, I'm gonna do some I'm gonna do some I'm gonna like look up how much is Sound Great Fire. 8 to 9. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, it's easily like the best card in that set, without doubt. Look at Locana on here, thinking it's gonna survive 2 years. No, I'm just hating. Yeah. By the way, Locana's out. And it does stuff. I don't know. I don't know. I should probably talk to Franz about it a little bit more, but I'm just gonna be completely honest. I just don't really have a current want to like get into this game. So that's just kind of just me, unfortunately. I feel like I don't know. But yeah, it's been about an hour. I've kind of exhausted all the things I kind of really want to say. I just want to, just come through and like catch up on y'all, see how y'all doing, and everything. I'll see if I want to do this every Friday. If I don't do it every Friday, I'm not going to be like, committing to it. Like, oh, we didn't have a stream this Friday. Like, I just didn't want to stream Friday. I'm sorry. I also want to go back to Twitch eventually, whatnot. So that's also a thing. So, but I think Twitch is gonna be more for like general gaming instead of just I think discussion like this will probably be good on YouTube. Maybe like if I do like some Vanguard Deer Days or CFA, which now that I've got the details about what's gonna happen to the Houston regionals, like I probably should get back on actually practicing for the formats I want to play. Excuse me. So that's kind of it. So yeah, I think we're gonna call it here today. It's been an hour. I think it's been good. I appreciate you all coming out just to say hello. So that's good. So on that note, pretty much I'll drop a video this weekend. Please be on the lookout for it. It's just gonna be like a cool video, kind of little small little thing while I work on the other projects in the back. It's been a month. I need to drop something to get the channel back into the algorithm. So yeah. So thank y'all so much for coming. I will see y'all maybe next Friday. if if before then I don't drop the new video. So see ya. Good night or morning or wherever you are.